now. These are our test corrections for the conflict, theme, and characters test that we took. We're going to go over the 5 most missed questions. Make sure that you pull up your copy of the test corrections and that you are filling these out as you go. That can be found on your Google Classrooms today. The test correction video is what you're watching right now, and then you'll click on that link to access these test corrections right here. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead for this first part of the video and read our passage, and then we'll look over the 5 most missed ones. Finally home. If you can't make friends in a small high school, how do you think you'll make friends once you go to college? My father had asked. I sighed and picked up my drumsticks as I pondered yesterday's conversation with my father. Maybe Dad is right, I thought. Maybe there is something wrong with me, and I'll never have real friends. I closed my eyes and began playing a steady rhythm, calming the turmoil in my brain. I loved that vacant garage. It was the perfect place to practice my drumming without anyone bothering or judging me. The year before, my parents had relocated our family to the minuscule town of Desmonds, where my sophomore class contained exactly 15 students. Most of the other girls were already paired off as best friends, and I was uncertain about how to begin making a friend. This was because I had never been part of a particular group. I simply wasn't that interested in fashion, gossip, or reality television shows, although I occasionally wished I would get invited to parties and other social activities. Thinking about my social life made me irritated and restless. I hopped off my drum stool and headed over to Dot's restaurant for a snack. On the walk over, I heard the sharp twang of an electric guitar that halted abruptly. I think we should begin the song with chorus chords, a male voice said, and then someone counted off. 1, 2, 3, 4. The music started again. Overwhelmed with curiosity, I followed the sound down a narrow cobblestone walkway. A green wooden door was slightly ajar, and I peeked inside. 2 boys and a girl sat on metal folding chairs. One boy was strumming his guitar and singing, while the other played bass. The girl was playing keyboards, and a trumpet rested beside her. I recognized the guitar player. Hey, I recognize you. You're Cassie from my class. The guitarist's voice startled me. I'm sorry, I apologized quickly. I just haven't heard any live music in this town before. You sound terrific. Did you guys write that song? Yeah, well, we're still working on it. I'm Matt. The guitarist hopped up and held out his hand. We've been practicing for 3 months. And now we're getting ready for our first performance next Friday at the park. I shook Matt's hand and then met George, the bass player. I said hello to Janice, the keyboardist. She smiled but seemed a little distant. Maybe I'm too young, I thought. Maybe my clothes are lame. I slid my hands into my pocket and attempted to smile confidently. Mind if I listen in? I asked. Not at all, Matt said, grinning. Maybe you can offer some feedback. I sat against the wall and listened. The song was actually pretty good. In my head, I could hear drum rhythms that would probably improve the song, but I felt hesitant to mention my drumming skills. Behind my drum set was the only place I felt completely like myself. I wasn't sure I wanted to open that door to the world. Hey, do you play drums? Matt inquired suddenly. My mouth gaped open. How did he know? And then I followed his eyes to my hands, which had been beating a rhythm on the floor beside me. I attempted to shrug nonchalantly, but my heart was jackhammering. Finally, I said, Sure, I've been playing a few years. Oh, wow, you've got to join us, George exclaimed. I have drums over here. I glanced at Janice, who was quietly studying me. She suddenly smiled shyly and asked, Will you play? That would be fantastic. I exhaled slowly. Janice had seemed so confident, but she was just as self-conscious as me. I wasn't too young, too unfashionable, or too weird. Absolutely, I would love to play, I said, hopping to my feet. 1, 2, 3, 4, George counted, and I set off a solid rhythm as the band joined in. Matt winked at me and began singing, and I knew I was finally home. Okay, so there's our story. We're going to be looking over numbers 2, 3, 6, 8, and 10. Number 2 says, the story reaches its climax when So as a reminder, when you guys are thinking about climax, that's going to be the most intense part of the story. And more often than not, instead of happening in the middle of the story, like our triangles always show, they actually usually happen a whole lot closer to the end of the story. It's going to be the moment where everything sort of like is at its most exciting for whoever our main character is. So if we go back and look at that, we know that it's going to have something to do with Cassie because she's our main character. So is it when she first hears the sound of an electric guitar? No. That's pretty early on in the story. That's what gets her interest going, and that starts building our suspense. So that one would probably fall right around here in the rising action. Is it when Matt asks whether Cassie plays drums? That's actually a really big deal. In fact, that's towards the end of the story, so we'll come back to that. Matt recognizes Cassie as a girl from his class. That's sort of towards the middle, and it's definitely not the most exciting thing that happens, so no. And Cassie sits against the wall and listens to the band. It's a big deal, but it's not exciting, so that's not going to work. So the best answer is going to be B. It's when Matt asks if Cassie plays drums. Because the whole theme of this story is about trying to find your identity and fit in and being more self-confident in who you are and finding friends. So the moment he asks if she plays drums, it's somebody inviting them in basically to their circle. I think the only better answer that wasn't an option here is when they ask her to actually play with them, which is pretty cool. When they ask her to play with them and she agrees, the moment she agrees to play drums with them, that would be our resolution, or we tie everything off nice. All right, our next question. Sorry, B is the best answer because when Matt asks Cassie to play drums, that's the most exciting part of the story. Number 3. Cassie's thoughts in paragraph 14 show that so we're going to go to paragraph 14 and look at Cassie's thoughts before we even read the answers. I sat against the wall and listened. The song was actually pretty good. In my head, I could hear drum rhythms that would probably improve the song, but I felt hesitant to mention my drumming skills. Behind my drum set was the one place I felt completely like myself. I wasn't sure I wanted to open that door to the world. So we want to know, what do Cassie's thoughts show here? Does she want to take a risk? Well, she does, but she's kind of afraid to. And this whole paragraph is about her being like afraid to actually do that. Is it showing she's trying too hard to impress the others? No, she's just sitting there and she's afraid to say anything. Has a false sense of pride. A false sense of pride is when somebody thinks they're better at something than they are. So if Cassie was saying something like, dude, your song would be so much better with my drums. I could really take you guys to the next level. That would be a sense of pride. If she thinks they can't do that, or that's a false sense of pride. So is reluctant to let people get to know her. So what we need to do is go and look up the word reluctant, if that's not a word that you're familiar with. So reluctant is unwilling and hesitant. So she's hesitating. So it's showing that she is hesitant to let people get to know her. Yeah, she's definitely hesitant to let people get to know her, because right here she says she feels hesitant to mention her drumming skills. So the best answer is D. So for number 3, the best answer is D, because Cassie feels hesitant, which is what reluctant means. Number 6. Sorry, I'm double checking something as I go. Based on Cassidy's conversation with Matt in paragraphs 9 through 16, the reader can conclude that. So this question is going to be about what can we infer about the characters based on their interaction. So a lot of times people don't just come right out and say, hey, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking. We have to read their dialogue and read between the lines. So let's read 9 through 16. I'm sorry, I apologize quickly. I just haven't heard any live music in this town before. You sound terrific. Did you guys write that song? Yeah, well, we're still working on it. I'm Matt. So at this point, Matt introduces himself. He says they're beginning practicing for a performance. She meets the rest of the band players and she starts feeling a little self-conscious, but then she does ask if she can listen in. Matt said he doesn't mind. Then all of a sudden, it goes from her being really nervous to Matt asking her if she plays drums. And she's honest about it. So what is this showing? Is it showing that Matt has a crush on Cassie? I think that's inferencing a little too far. Is it showing that Matt and the band need help writing new songs? Well, it says that they might want drum player. They didn't really say about writing new songs. Maybe. We'll come back to it. Does it say that Cassie does not fit in with any group at school? She says that she doesn't really fit in anywhere and she's nervous about things, but that's not really what's going on. Or does it show that Matt realizes Cassie plays drums? I'm not going to lie, guys. I was surprised this one was a most missed question. So if you take the time to actually go back and read paragraphs 9 through 16, the situation develops to the point where Matt realizes she plays drums because she's been beating a rhythm. So our best answer is actually D. So D is the best answer because the reading selection, sorry, back up. D is the best answer because Matt asks if Cassie plays drums because she's beating a rhythm on the floor. Okay, number 8. The final sentence of the excerpt suggests that Cassie most likely feels. So an excerpt is like our reading passage, so we got to go to the final sentence. 1, 2, 3, 4, George counted, and I set a solid rhythm as the band joined in. Matt winked at me, and I began singing, and I knew I was finally home. So really asking, what is she feeling here? She doesn't say, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling scared, I'm feeling angry. We have to figure out what she really means here. So again, we're figuring out what the character feels based on what they think. So if you're not familiar with some of these words, that's when you go to the Google here. So our first word is content. You can also go to dictionary.com, which I actually prefer to Google. So is she at a state of peaceful happiness? Another word of ours was stoic. Person who can endure hardship without showing their feelings or complaining. So is she really focusing on her hardship and not complaining here? I don't think so. Is she feeling, so I know you guys know what concerned means. Wistful. Wistful is like a type of sad. So feeling wistful, it means you're showing a feeling of like regret. So she's not showing regret. So our best answer is going to be content because it means happy. So for 8, the best answer is A, because when Cassie says she's finally home, she feels peacefully happy. Last one, number 10. So that's just a matter of using the dictionary, using dictionary.com while you're taking the test, which you're allowed to do. Okay, so for number 10, read this sentence from paragraph 16. I attempted to shrug nonchalantly, but my heart was jackhammering. Cassie's actions in this sentence best demonstrate her. All right, so once again, we're trying to figure out what is the character thinking? What is the character feeling? She doesn't come right out and say exactly what her emotions are, so we got to figure it out. If you don't know the word nonchalantly, off to the dictionary we go. So nonchalantly means in a casual, calm, and relaxed manner. I attempted to shrug in a casual, calm manner, but my heart was jackhammering. So it best demonstrates her. Does it demonstrate her anxiety that the group will discover her deepest secret, that she plays drums? Well, she definitely is feeling anxiety here with the jackhammering, but are drums really her deepest secret? Is it showing her attitude that she doesn't think playing drums is a big deal? She's trying to act nonchalant, but her heart's jackhammering, so I don't think that's her real attitude. Is it her excitement and nervousness that she may have something in common with the group? So if you actually go and look at the context of this, which you always should, this is the moment where Matt asks if she plays drums, which is the climax, which is the moment that we realize Cassie might be about to be invited into a group. So C is going to be our best answer. For D, she is afraid that the group she might be too good for the group to accept her, but that's not what's happening in paragraph 16 if you look at the context. So once you look at the context, C is the clear answer. So C is the best answer because Cassie is excited that she might have found a place to fit in. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Remember to that's the wrong one. Remember to complete 3 out of the 5. If you have a very low score, you probably want to complete all 5. You can find your test score in your Canvas. All right, y'all have a great rest of your day. See you later. Bye.